What up, YouTube? It's your boy Double M, and I'm coming back at you with once again another sketch and rant. Sketch and rant, you may be asking, what are those? It's simple, really. I sketch something in the background as I talk about something. What I sketch can be related to what I'm talking about. It doesn't matter as long as there's something happening in the background. Visually pleasing. You don't even necessarily have to focus on what's happening in the background. You can have this playing in the background as you do something. Just make sure that you're listening to what I'm saying in these sketch and rants, because that's the whole idea. Today's topic is actually one that was suggested in the last sketch and rant. Yeah, you should make sure to go watch that one after you watch this one. I was asked to talk on my university life. Let's put it on quotes. University life, right? And how I balance my art life and school life. How I balance art and school. How I still can do the most in both, or try to do the most in both, without letting one hinder progress in the other. You know what I'm saying? Or in this case, without letting school hinder progress in art, because we all know the focus here. Before we get started with that, there's a quick call to action, just a quick call to action. I want to remind you to drop a like and hit the subscribe button if you have not, to join the Double Empire. You get more videos like these, tutorials, art challenges, many things. It's an art channel with good vibes. Make sure to drop that like button and hit the subscribe button to join the Double Empire. Okay, let's get down to business. How I want to get at this, how I want to talk about this. I don't want to necessarily start talking about how I focus on things now, how I'm able to balance things now. I want to talk about how I told myself to balance things in the beginning when I decided to take art more seriously. I want to take you back and show you how my balancing art and balancing normal life and balancing school evolved. So I want to take it back a couple of years, how I balanced it then and how I've been balancing it till now and how I balance it now, so you can sort of see and understand how I tackle this. When it comes to different places in different countries, right, we all understand that different countries have different job possibilities. Let's say someone living in a first world country will have much more job opportunities than someone living in a third world country. Why am I talking about first world and third world countries? Well, it has to do with how I thought on spending my time in art and spending my time in school. When I decided to take art seriously, I thought to myself, hey, yo, now I'm taking it seriously, I got to do something with this. There obviously is a job that I can do with my art skills, but not where I currently am, Because as a country, we're still developing. Just give us time, dog. Just give us time. We're gonna be elite, fam. So yeah, third world country, not that many job opportunities. So what you might want to become something, but depending on where you are, there might be or there might not be the chance to become that something. There won't be institutions that will be teaching, that will be focusing, giving out their all on teaching what you're trying to be in the future. So I told myself, let me go through school, get a job that I can comfortably get here and earn enough so that I can, with my time, move to where I need to be to make this art thing a reality. So I said, make sure school is the number one priority. Not number one, but yeah, number one priority. Let's put it quote marks. Number one priority to put in your all, or put in enough to get good marks, and whatever free time I had was focused on art. I'll be honest, in the beginning I took this a bit too far, where I told myself, yeah, focus on school and whenever you can focus on art, but I took it a bit too overboard, where I even started multitasking, quote unquote multitasking, where in classes, while the teachers were teaching, I'd be there in the sketchbook. I mean, yeah, hypothetically it could work in the background. As you're sketching in the background, you could have the lesson being taught to you, but I sometimes catch myself focusing a little too much on the sketch and I'll miss out on the lesson. And there were some teachers, they didn't mind. Some teachers didn't mind, but other teachers had a problem with it, till it was brought up to the point where I was legit told to stop sketching in lessons. To be honest, if you're not good at multitasking, I do not suggest this. Matter of fact, I do not suggest it at all, sketching in lessons at all. That's the whole idea of mixing art and school just gave me a headache. So I decided, nah, school is school and art is art. I'm gonna finish this and get to that. I'm gonna finish that and get to this. Mixing it just gave me a whole headache. If you wanna listen to something as you sketch, listen to a podcast, a audio book, or a YouTube video, whatever it may be. But I told myself, if I'm busy with school, I'm busy with school. Let me finish it, get it out of the way. Then whatever free time I have, it's gonna be on art. In theory, yes, this did sound possible and manageable. Whenever there's school, you set a time for listening in class, doing the homework, even studying. And then whenever you're done with that, whenever you're done with all that, you can then focus on the art. Honestly speaking, you could even have somewhat of a social life. I wouldn't say one way you are going out every, third day. Nah, maybe like every fourth day to a week or so. Yeah, you can still have somewhat of a social life. It's not like you have to closet yourself out just to tell yourself, nah, I have to focus on this. I have to make sure I'm getting myself to where I need to be. But I'll be honest with you, that was my mistake. That was my first mistake, telling myself that I needed to close myself off to make sure where I needed to be. In a sense, I did, but I didn't need to close myself off to that extent. And the thing is, it's not like closing myself off to that extent helped that much. It did, but not as much as I thought it would. So yeah, I'd say depending on how busy you are, you can still have somewhat of a quote-unquote social life. Doesn't have to be every week, doesn't have to be every day, doesn't have to be every third or fourth day. It's up to you to find that balance. I just know that there is enough time for you to have somewhat of a social life, The funny thing is, as I'm recording this, I'm sort of agreeing and disagreeing with myself. It depends. Yeah, it all depends on how much work you have. Sometimes you can have the very least time. It's up to you to find that time and how you can use it. But usually, us as introverts, I don't want to say all artists are introverts, but majority of them that I have met and that I know of are introverts. So they are going to choose the sketch pad, the tablet, and the stylus over going out, So yeah, I told myself, focus on school, do what you got to do, get it out the way, then focus on art. But honestly, this became a little more difficult as time progressed, because as time passed, what I was learning was becoming a little more difficult, Progression of grades, things have become more difficult than it was the past grade. And honestly speaking, it wasn't too difficult. It was obviously more difficult than it was before, but it wasn't too difficult where things were becoming hectic. If one really does focus and put the effort into what they're trying to learn, what they're trying to study, for example, school, trying to understand instead of reciting, trying to understand what you're trying to do, you can actually get the work done. But the mistake I made, been making mistakes, but the mistake I made was I would be in the middle of focusing on something, right? I'd be in the middle of studying on something, and then out of my mind, I gotta get that sketch complete. I gotta get that illustration finished by the end of the day. So I sort of, I want to say procrastinate. I sort of procrastinate, put that work aside, and then jump on the art. And then when I'm done with the art, there isn't any time left for the studying of that one. Then I would study just to get marks where, honestly, they were good marks, good enough to pass, but I wasn't happy with them because I knew for a fact I could have gotten much higher. So yeah, that's one thing I want to repeat again. Whatever it is that may be in the way of you doing what you love, doing what you want to do the most, make sure you focus on it and get it out of the way completely. Effectively and completely. Don't just rush through it and then it's rubbish work. It's not the work that you would do, Focus on it and completely get it out of the way so that the remaining time you have can now be focused on your craft. But honestly speaking, the amount of work that you need to do in school can still increase even though you are focusing, putting your effort into it, trying to get it out of the way. By the time I got it out of the way, especially nowadays, by the time I got it out of the way, I would have almost little to no time to put into my craft, to put into drawing, there were times where I still had the control, right? I still had the ability, the chance to put in more effort to make sure that I still had time. But there were still other times where I couldn't do anything. Things were out of my control. It was just a hectic amount of work. And I want to say something for both of those situations. For the times that I still had control, I still catch myself low-key procrastinating here and there, not even keeping up with what had to be done. There would be times I would be sitting in class and I just hear a couple of people sitting in the same class talking about an assignment that was due in a few days, and I'm like, where did this assignment come from? Apparently it was given to us weeks ago and it's due in a few days, and I'm like, oh my goodness. So I didn't really put that much effort into making sure that everything was done. Not only getting everything done, but making sure that everything was completed, so that I still had the amount of time left to focus on my craft. But even still, there will be times where the amount of schoolwork that you have is God tier. It's like so much. Wonder where is it coming from and why is it so much, And it does get to the point where schoolwork is just too much. To make sure I was still able to do, still able to make art, still able to create stuff as I was busy with this abnormal amount of schoolwork, there were two things I had to do. Or two things that I still have to do, because honestly speaking, there's still places where I can improve. But I had to make sure that I was a god at managing my time, really separating the production time from the resting and creative time, the time where you set aside for completing an assignment, the time where you set aside for studying. And then when you're done with that time, as a break or even as a study break, I could slide in a few sketches. I could complete that one illustration, as a break. Because honestly speaking, if you push yourself the whole day, let's say one whole day, you're finishing an assignment and then studying for like a couple of straight throughout the whole day for like a couple of days, once you get that work out the way, you will have time left for art. But I feel like you'll be burnt out to the point where you need to rest, where even focusing on your craft is not a possibility, because you're gonna need to rest. So not to repeat myself, but there does come a time where the work can become too much, where if you do manage to focus on it entirely and get it out of the way, let's say a couple of days, you're just focusing on it entirely, trying to get it out of the way, you can risk getting yourself tired to the point where you don't even want to draw. You just want to rest. And by the time when you're ready, you're energized for the next illustration. There's another assignment. So I tell myself to, throughout the day, reserve a time where I'm focusing, putting all my effort into the schoolwork, getting it out of the way, getting part of an assignment completed, studying parts of a subject, studying part of a module. And then when that part of the day is done, the remainder of the day I can sort of use it to quote unquote relax. I would focus on one illustration, I would focus on a couple of practice sketches, I would focus on maybe one animation if I'm feeling fancy, and in the background I would have something like a YouTube video or an anime or a podcast, whatever it may be. And then once that time of the day is done, back in it again on their schoolwork. There were also some things that I had to sacrifice, because when the work becomes too much, when the schoolwork becomes too much, you still have the time to focus on your art, but when it's schoolwork and art, at that point, there's still some things that I have to sacrifice. So I sat down with myself and I thought through the things. I organized what could not be sacrificed, under any circumstances could not be sacrificed, and what could be sacrificed. Because if you think about it, yes, schoolwork is going to be a lot, but it's not like you're going to be filled with schoolwork throughout the whole year. You're still going to have those breaks in between the semesters and those mid-semester breaks. So the things that could be sacrificed could be filled in the time of those breaks, those semester breaks, those in-between semester breaks. Like there's social life. You still could have somewhat. I don't want to say it's completely eradicated, but it depends on the amount of work you have, because honestly, we all have different amounts of work. It doesn't have to be completely eradicate it, but it can still be something that can be sacrificed, because you can tell yourself, yeah, for this 1 to 2 months, I will focus on trying to get the schoolwork and the artwork, and then when the semester breaks and the breaks in between semesters, you can start becoming a little more social. But it's up to you also to sit down and to focus on what can't be sacrificed and what can be sacrificed. What can't be sacrificed, that's the one that you have to make sure, the one you have to properly organize throughout the whole day. But make sure you don't organize the day in a way that you don't even have time to sit by yourself for 5 minutes, because you still should have that time to sit by yourself for 5 minutes so you can calm yourself down, calm the mind. Otherwise you're gonna overwork yourself and burn yourself out. Not even burning yourself out on the thing that you love doing, burning yourself out of school. Can you imagine? Like, how does that even work? So yeah, even on those lunch breaks or after those lunch breaks, sit by yourself, stare at a wall for 5 minutes, those meditation type thing, just for 5 minutes, doing nothing. Maybe you read a couple of pages from a book or something, listen to an audiobook as you do a 10 to 15-minute sketch or something, and then jump back on that work. And then later in the day, depending on how much work you have, later in the day you can then jump on that one illustration that you wanted to get completed. It's almost like a balance. It's almost like a balance, or at least from my experience. I'm not 100% sure on your experience, but it's almost like a balance. There will be days where there's still a lot of work to do, there's still a lot of lessons to learn on, but things are still a little chill, Those are the days where, okay, I would have a little more practice sketches sessions. I'll have a little more time to focus on that animation or that illustration. And then after those days, there will be those hectic days, those days you have to put aside to make sure you study that one subject for that exam or complete that assignment. Those set of days is where, yes, there will be less, not completely zero, but less sketching sessions and time to focus on that illustration. It's a balance, it's not, I'm not 100% sure on your experience in your situation, but I don't think that your whole time in school is hectic to the point where you have to study every single day from the first day of that semester to the last day of that semester. I highly doubt it. I could be wrong. Just tell me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I highly doubt it. But yeah, again, it's up to you to find out the things that you can sacrifice and the things that cannot be sacrificed, no matter what, under any circumstances, should not be sacrificed. You put aside the things that can be sacrificed for the times where you have the time, as a student you have the time, and the semester breaks and the breaks between the semesters. So keep that aside there for that time. For the things you cannot sacrifice, make sure you organize them properly and effectively throughout your day. You have that time of the day where you put in your all for that assignment or that study session, and then as a break, you can slide in a sketch session. You can put in a little work on that illustration or that animation. Even the sketch sessions in the breaks are enough to still keep your art skills up. They're enough to still keep your art skills where they're supposed to be. They're even enough to improve on your art skills. You can even become more creative that way. On the breaks, whether you're sitting by yourself 5 minutes staring at the wall, doing the meditation type thing, or you're doing the sketch sessions, more ideas can come into your head. More ideas come to you on that one illustration that you would want to do. You get an idea, oh wait, I can draw that. Oh wait, I can draw this. It's something I talk on the previous sketch and rant that I did, which you should watch. I don't want to talk on it too much now, but that's the gist of it. So without making this video unnecessarily too long, that's how I balance my school life and my art life. I make sure I set those times in the day where I put in my all into the assignment, into that study session, not only trying to get it out of the way, but making sure I can put my best into it and I can also be happy with it. And then I would organize times of the day where I can sort of rest from those productive times of the day. In those resting times, I would do the meditation type thing. I would read a book. I would maybe watch an anime episode or two, maybe watch a series episode or two as I'm sketching, keeping up the art skills. And then later in the day, when there's time, depending on the amount of work you have in school, depending on if it's an exam that's coming up the next few weeks, or if it's still the beginning of a semester and you're still learning the subject, at the end of the day, I'll focus on that illustration or that animation. And then in the mid-semester breaks and the breaks in between the semesters, that's when you can go crazy with it. And with that, we have come to the end of the damn 20 minutes. Goodness gracious. I want to thank you for making it to 20 minutes. And I'm not talking to a lot of people. I'm probably talking to one person or two people. But I want to thank you for making it to this. I want to thank you to making it to the end of the video. If you made it and if you enjoyed it, make sure to drop that like and hit the subscribe button once again. If you have not, to join the Double Empire. Make sure to watch my other videos. Make sure to check me out on my Instagram and my Twitter as well. They're linked in the description. God bless. And until next time, Double M out.